Everybody do the flop!
Hello, this is KRBrickBot, and I'll be reviewing another knockoff from Seju Toy Jetbot Z. It was released in June of 2019 and its retail price is about 15,000 Korean won. Before we take a look at the IP infringed character in question, let's take a look at the packaging. There's the Seju logo there, a QR code there, 3+ ages there, Super Warcraft, conversion, robot to jet power transform, 2 forms with the arrows in the shape of a 2, and a CG render of you-know-who carrying a you-know-what. Some red on the bottom and red-black simple mechanical design, more CG renders, robot to jet power transform, version 1 robot mode, version 2 jet mode, and this particular set can come in 2 different colors. There's some English that's so familiar. Realistic shape and flexible action. Some product info on the bottom here. The side has those CG renders and the QR code. Oh, and here's some real English. Skillful manufacturer, high standard in quality and hygiene, superior performance, perfect in workmanship. I don't think that's even a sentence. So Jetbot Z comes in 2 different colors in 2 different sets. And the other set is blue, in one of these 2 possible color combinations. So apart from the colors, the packaging is basically the same. And there's the English again. You know you have a KO product when you have some paint splattered on the window here. Let's first look at the Jetbot that is definitely not Starscream. And this looks like it's a knockoff of the 2017 Cyber Battalion Starscream. But on closer inspection, there are a lot of changed and retooled bits. Most noticeably, the arms and legs are completely different. And the chest. Basically everything is made from scratch. Even though the wings look similar, they're slightly different, and the head, I'm assuming, is less hollow on the real thing. Okay, for one, the arms actually are ball socketed, so he has bicep and elbow movement. And the legs are also on ball sockets, and this time he has knees. This Starscream has knees, while the Cyber Battalion one doesn't. And looking at some chest details, instead of those grills, you have the typical circular fan chest, you know what, and looks like some silver painted tubes here, and some more detailing on the crotch overall. And the head looks nearly identical to the Cyber Battalion Starscream, except it's blue instead of black. And like I said, I'm assuming the real thing has less hollow bits than this. The wing colors are similar to Starscream's wings, except you have this sort of fictitious force symbol that's also on his shoulders and the nose cone. Now to examine the quality of this KO thing. The plastic feel, for the most part, is pretty smooth, and it doesn't feel like a super cheap Ridley plastic. But the inner legs are very hollow. As are the shoulders, the lower arms, the feet, and the head. And if you take a look at the wing, the back of the wings, you can see that pretty rough underside plastic of typical cheap knockoff toys. And there's a little hole where the screw hole should have been. And speaking of which, it looks like there is not a single metal screw or pin in this thing. It's all held together by plastic. Very cost efficient, I would say, but probably hard to replace if the thing ever breaks. So each Jetbot comes with 4 null rays, which compared to the original null rays in the Cyber Battalion Starscream, it looks like the top bits and the fins have been shaved off. So they're pretty flat. So there are 2 in trans orange and 2 in trans blue. So there are basically 3 ways to mount them on each arm. There's a little hole here which you can mount in like a traditional null ray. Or you can plug it in the fist. Or you can plug it in the underside of the arm if you like an arm slung look. Of the 3, this one is the most secure. The other ones, they tend to be fixed. They tend to be locked in certain positions due to this hole being a hexagonal hole. And the hands are a smidge loose. And there are holes on the back of here on which you can plug in the extra null rays. The toy comes packaged holding the orange null rays, but of course I think the blue null rays just work much better with the color scheme. And the null rays are 5mm, so you can plug them into Transformers figures' hands and vice versa. So you could add extra arsenal to various Transformers figures if you want. A quick look at articulation. The fins move forward and back. Head is on a full 360 swivel. Ball socketed shoulder, ball socketed arm, and such as a bicep. Forward that much, back that much. Splits that much. Knees, and foot joints. Yeah, these feet joints are, because they're only held by plastic, can be very loose. And they're very susceptible to doing the flop. I am assuming it's the same size as Cyber Battalion Starscream, and thus the typical size of a Transformers Voyager. So let's transform Jetbot Z into jet mode. If you want, you can turn around the head 180 to cover that. Flip out the cockpit, then flip out the nose cone. You can fold in the landing gear all the way that way if you want. Fold up the feet. Tap those in together. Get those arms out of the way so that this lower fin will detach and tab into here. Flip down those fins. And here where it's different from the Cyber Battalion. Here are the instructions, which are completely textless. And numberless for that matter. So if you take a look here, the arms actually peg to the wings. So what you do is turn these arms around, then peg it into these holes, which are very different from the Cyber Battalion. And then you can plug in the null rays here. And I guess if you want, you could store the other 2 null rays on the back like this. Though they're not perfectly parallel. And there's the Jetbot in its jet mode. The jet mode looks pretty similar to the Cyber Battalion. And it's sporting some more Starscreamy colors than the real version. Because basically because the legs are silver, the back is also translated to silver weld with only these bottom fins silver and these top fins blue instead of both fins being blue on the Cyber Starscream, and a black cockpit instead of an orange cockpit. And there's the intake details just like on the real thing. And some painted grills here, although it's got a little sloppy over here. Undercarriage junk as usual and hollow bits. But overall, a very nice looking jet replica of you know what. It's very unusual for the arms to hold onto the wings like that. And while they do reinforce the wings from flopping around, that is just the ugliest and worst way to store undercarriage junk. Because that much arm gets in the way of the wing and does not make it really aerodynamic. And from the bottom view, it really looks ugly with that undercarriage junk sticking out like that. So what I like to do is just leave the arms as they are in this position, except flip those forward and then fold them down like that. And that lends itself to a much smoother look. And looks like the wings that look like they can actually fly with extra ports. And as I said, without those, they do kind of flop, but still, they hold on their own. And you can mount the null rays on either of these holes here. Though it might be a little trickier since those hexagonal holes will kind of make it tricky to properly align in a straightforward position. And even not so, it kind of looks like they will always point a little forward. They're not exactly parallel, which is not necessarily a bad thing. This is the other Seeker in the red set. So he's sporting a unique color scheme of black and red with several accents about. What's mostly different is the silver accents on the wingtips and shoulders and legs, orange accents on the arms and chest, and the head is red with some green eyes and a green cockpit. And the set originally came with him holding the blue ray guns, but I personally like the orange null rays since they match the colors closer. And the jet mode looks pretty nice too, with a black and red color scheme with a green cockpit and red nose cone. A little bit of orange to break up there, which is again a little sloppy. And white force symbols and a white force on the nose cone. That's the Hot Seeker. And the main jet in the blue line and the main Seeker in the blue set is this Seeker with a combination of teal, white, and orange, and silver, and gold. Again, he came packaged holding the blue guns, but since that shade of blue doesn't match, I prefer the orange null rays. It has some nice color decals of its own, like orange tubing in the little crotch area and gold shoulders and knees. And a nice teal head with traditional red eyes. And an orange cockpit to break that up. And silver detailings on the arms. And blue and orange lining on the wings with a red Force logo. And the jet mode is also sporting a nice color scheme with teal, orange, and white. Although the silver kind of breaks up the back. And did I mention how nicely detailed these thrusters are compared to the Cyberverse Starscream? I mean the Cyber Battalion? And finally, here's the other Seeker in the blue set featuring 3 shades of blue. You have this medium blue for the chest, the dark blue for the arms, and the light blue for the legs. Oops, this ball socket fell off. But speaking of which, it looks like the arms have an extra paint app of orange and all the little vents here. None of the other Seekers have that. And it's kind of odd for this thing, only these to be green. And red generic force symbols on the wings and the inverted on the nose cone and inverted on the shoulders as well. The jet mode's looking very Arctic with 3 shades of blue and white in a black cockpit. It looks just like those Robots in Disguise Arctic redecos. In fact, I think I'll call this guy Arctic Storm. This is another group of cheap knockoffs, but their big size and variety of colors make them a good army building crowd-filling generic group of Decepticon Seekers. Now, if I can only buy some repro labels to put the stickers to cover those generic force symbols. But as these are more generic, unofficial product, they're not likely to be sold in big retailers, only in small brick-and-mortar stores and online. And I don't think they're readily available for international shipping. So it's kind of really hard to go out of your way to get these specifically colored Seekers.
Thanks for watching. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to tune in for more Korean robot content. And until next time, this is KRBrickBot signing off.
Starscream, you traitor! I told you, I'm not Starscream! I'm Z. I just happen to look a lot like him! I think I saw Starscream go that way! Primus, your voice is annoying! Well, at least you fixed them all up after you give him a beating! I can hardly stand on my own 2 feet! There goes my feet!